Alright everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel, and this is essentially like a part 2 to a video I've already done on the channel. A handful of videos back, I gave my predictions on who the Iranian national team should call up for this upcoming World Cup and what my starting lineup will look like for the tournament based on my squad selections. But now that we are so close to the start of the World Cup and the official squads for every national team needing to be released and announced by May 30th, I thought let's do an updated version of this video because a lot has changed since the time I recorded that. Now that we're getting closer to the World Cup, we've had a couple more friendlies, matches across club level, international level for Iran. Let's give my final predictions on who I think the Iranian national team should call up for the World Cup, how they should line up. So fingers crossed, they hopefully make a dark horse run at this tournament. But before we get into this video, boys and girls, if you're a big fan of the Iranian national team, Asian football, this is the channel that you need to be at. So make sure to subscribe because we're on the road to 6,000 subscribers. And I know with your guys' help, we can get there. So make sure to subscribe right now. Drop a like on this video. Let's get some good vibes going. Good juju for the Iranian national team going into this World Cup. So make sure to drop a like. And throughout this video, if there's any of my opinions, selections, thoughts that you disagree with, agree with, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below because I always try to respond to every single comment on every single video, so make sure to do that. But just like in the last video, I'm going to go through my goalkeepers, outside backs, center backs, midfielders, wingers, and strikers in chronological order. Then at the end of the video, based on my squad selections, how would I want to see the Iranian national team line up? So let's get started with the goalkeepers. And for my goalkeeper selections, there are no changes here. I've selected Alireza Beiranvand, Hosseini, and Mohammad Khalifeh. So no changes here when it comes to the goalkeeping department. Beiranvand, Hosseini, I think are the lock-ins for either being the starter or the backup. They have both proven that they can start in World Cups, play in World Cups as starters, backups. That is indefinite. I think the only discussion here is the third choice goalkeeper, even though Amir Qalanoui might end up calling up 4 goalkeepers, which is completely pointless in my opinion. I personally would go with Khalifeh, who has been in the national team fold. Yes, hasn't played, but has been called up to the senior national team a handful of times. If it was because Qalanoui wanted to lower the age of the national team so media, fans like ourselves would get off of his back that he doesn't call up younger players, or whatever the case may be, I would actually call up Khalifeh just to get that experience of being at a World Cup, being a part of a team during this tournament, because who knows, he might be the future goalkeeper for Iran, so might as well get him that little bit of experience here and there to be in these type of environments if he ends up having to take that mantle, because right now all our other older, more experienced goalkeepers are starting to get pretty cooked. So I think Khalifeh would be a good third choice option. But again, this is very minuscule to the grand scheme of things when it comes to our squad list. And now next up is my center backs, where I would call up Mehdi Zare, Saman Fala, Shoja Khalizadeh, and Hossein Kanaani, who replaces Hasbavi. So when it comes to the center backs, my only change would be Hasbavi, just because he has not really been playing, has not been in any form going into this World Cup for club and country. He is a lot younger, and we all have high expectations for Hasbavi. He was really good for Iran at youth level. He was the captain for Iran at youth level. He is a very good center back, but since he has made that decision to leave the Qatari League and come back to Iran, it has not gone well for him whatsoever. He has made appearances, he has kind of been in the national team fold, but really hasn't taken any of his opportunities. So I am gonna bring back Kanaani into the fold because I do want to make this somewhat realistic, not only just being my opinions on who I think should be there, but as well who I think Qalanoui will likely call up. I want it to be kind of a healthy mixture of both of those two things. And there isn't really any other center backs that I could replace Hasbavi with, and I think Kanaani would be the one that makes the most sense. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna start him though. And now moving on to the outside backs, I would have Sadegh Moharrami, Saleh Hardani, Hossein Goudarzi, and Milad Mohammadi, who replaces Saifi. So yeah, my only replacement here would be Mohammadi for Saifi. Saifi was a bit of a stab in the dark from my point of view. He is a okay player in the UAE league for Shabab Ahd Adli, who has now become Iranian football fans' favorite UAE team with Ittihad Kalba because we have so many Iranians that play there. And he has looked good here and there throughout their cameos in the Asian Champions League, in the domestic league, but he hasn't played for the senior national team. And if Iran does deploy that 5 in the back system, like we saw against Nigeria, I think Milad Mohammadi really fits the bill for that left wing back spot, and we can tell he is somewhat pivotal in how Amir Khalenoui wants to deploy that type of tactic. So I've gone with him. I don't rate Milad Mohammadi, but if you do that 5 in the back, I can understand why you would have him in the starting lineup. Other than that, yes, controversially, I have put in and stuck with Moharrami, even though Rami Rezayan has been getting called up, has made some cameos here and there for the national team recently. I just don't rate Rami Rezayan. I know Moharrami is out of form at club level, at national team level, but there is still some time till the World Cup starts. If he picks up some form with Tractor, gets some more minutes for the national team right before the tournament, I would much rather take a decent to somewhat on form Moharrami over any version of Rami Rezayan at this point. Rami Rezayan, in my opinion, yes, he's still good, but he's fairly washed. And the biggest emphasis I have for our defensive line is defense. And I think Moharrami in strides is a way better defender than Rezayan because I think offensively we have players that can take care of the job there. So there's no reason to have a super offensive outside back. I want a solid defensive right back that can cover the likes of Khalizadeh, Saeid Manesh, Qaedi, whoever it may be. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Moharrami. Regardless the form that he is on, I would still have him in that spot. And then next up is my midfielders, where I would call up Saeid Ezatolahi, Saman Quddus, Amir Mohammad Razaqinia, Mohammad Qurbani, Mohammad Javad Hossein and Amir Hossein Hossein-Zadeh. The midfield is the area that I have no changes for. It is exactly the same from the last time I did this video. I think it is a perfect balance of experience and young, youthful talent. I think it is absolutely perfect. We even saw Qurbani and Razaqinia play so well for Iran in these recent friendlies, both adding a different type of style to that midfield that suits Iran. If we need more of that brick shithouse box-to-box center defensive mid, Qurbani can be that. Or if you want that more regista center defensive mid like a Jorginho, Razaqinia can be that guy. And on top of that, you have the experienced players like Ezatolahi Quddus with more of that offensive attacking midfield creativity in Hossein and Hossein-Zadeh, where obviously I would prefer Hossein. I think he could be that saving grace for Iran in that more offensive midfield position. But all in all, I think this would be the perfect midfield call-up for Iran. But we already know Khalenoui has his ploys to bring in Omid Noorafkan, which is absolutely diabolical, but we already know he's going to be doing that. And then for the wingers, it would be Ali Golizadeh, Mohammad Mohebbi, Alihir Said Manesh, Mehdi Qaedi, who would replace Kushki, and Alireza Jahanbakhsh. So my only change here would be Qaedi for Kushki. I think this is kind of like a potato. I know a lot of you were commenting in the last video, where is Qaedi? I can't believe you didn't call him up. Me personally, I don't really rate Qaedi as highly as other people. I still think he's a good player. I think he plays well for the national team, but my locked in wingers is always going to be Golizadeh number 1, Said Manesh number 2, Mohebbi number 3. So at that point, does Qaedi or Kushki really get that many minutes? No, not really. And if I were to have one guy that could come in, make an instant impact, I would prefer Kushki over Qaedi. I think he's shown that when he did get that little cameo against Uzbekistan, where if shit hits the fan, we really need someone to slice and dice a defensive line, create half chances, I would much rather prefer Kushki. But I'm going to listen to you all, my viewers, and bring in Qaedi. He scored an absolute banger against Costa Rica. And yes, it was an absolute banger, but I don't think we need to put much stock into it. Iran was up 4-0. Costa Rica knew they were already out of the game. So when you have those type of circumstances, you can just absolutely leg a ball on the full volley from 22 yards out and hit a volley like that. Doesn't really change a whole lot for me personally. And as well, I know many of you might say Cheyenne, but Jahanbakhsh, you could take him out. In my opinion, Jahanbakhsh doesn't see much to any minutes whatsoever at this World Cup, but you need some locker room experience. A guy that has been at 3 World Cups, we mustn't forget. No other player on the national team can say they've done that or have done that. I think it is important and invaluable to have a guy like Jahanbakhsh as a locker room leader. So that is very obvious and cut and dry for me to keep Jahanbakhsh as one of the winger options. And now finally moving on to the strikers, where I would have Mehdi Taremi, Sardar Azmoun, Dennis Eckert, who would be replacing Taheri, and Reza Qandipur. I know there has been the news where Azmoun has been exiled essentially from the national team because of the political stuff. I'm not going to really get into it, but I am personally very confident that he will be a part of the World Cup team. I know he wasn't part of the recent friendlies, but we've seen this many, many times with Azmoun where the government doesn't want him to come to the World Cup because he posted this political thing, said this thing, or done this, but he ended up being a part of the national team, and I don't see that being any different here. I think it would be literal national team suicide to not bring up Azmoun, so I think he'll be there. My only change is Dennis Eckert for Taheri. We saw Dennis Eckert in the recent friendlies. He's gotten his passport stuff all sorted out. He was a part of the camp. The only thing he has to do is go to Iran to finalize everything that he's gonna play for the national team, make the switch, and I think that will happen before the camps, before the World Cup. So based on that, I would definitely have Eckert in this pool of strikers. He has now been a part of a camp. He now understands and is seeing the personnel, the players, the tactics that Qalinui will probably want from him. So I think that was really clutch and good that he was there at the recent camp. Get some games under his belt with the last friendlies right before the World Cup. And I think this is a perfect scenario and a pretty cool situation that we're finally going to have a dual national for Iran since Saman Ghodus. 8 years ago it has been. I know it has been swept under the rug because of all the political stuff that has been going on, but I definitely think having Eckert is a bit of a bonus. I definitely think that helps our national team just that little bit offensively, and I will definitely take it. So those are all the players that I would call up for this World Cup. The real question here is, what would my starting lineup look like? Unlike last time, I'm going to slightly change my formation to a 4-2-3-1. In the goalkeeping position, I'm going to go with Alireza Beiranvand. I don't care if you say Hosseini, Beiranvand. I'm not arguing over the goalkeeping position. I've gone back and forth over this a million times. I'm fine with either or. I would slightly maybe give it to Hosseini, but I don't really care. Potato, potato. I'm not fighting this goalkeeping battle because I don't think either of them are upper echelon. I don't think either of them are like Peyman Niazman bad. I think they're just both okay and have shown they can both do a job. So I'm going to go with Beiranvand. For my two center backs, I'm going to go with Zare and Fallah. Yes, very young, very inexperienced, but I think we need some youthfulness here. We have seen already from the recent friendlies against Nigeria, Khalizadeh Kanaani getting burnt like it is nobody's business. I don't want to see them play. They obviously will end up playing, but I would just say, you know what? Heck with it. I would go with these two young, more hungrier center backs that can actually keep up with pacey, more agile, more techie players that we will face off against at this World Cup. So I'm going to go with Zare and Fallah. Yes, there might be inexperience. Yes, it might be a risky move, but I'd much rather go with the unknown risky move than go with Dumb and Dumber and Kanaani and Khalizadeh. But you can have them in the squad as experience, which I have done in this video. At left back, I would go with Goudarzi, and at right back, I would go with Moharrami. I just don't really rate Mohammadi if he is not playing in that left wing back, 5 in the back type formation. If we are going with 4 in the back, Goudarzi, yes, he hasn't been called up to the national team before, but he has been really good for Istiqlal this season. So I would easily have him in. And then Moharrami is our best defender by a country mile if he is even on a little ounce of form. So I would have him there because I'm almost certain he will get into form right before this World Cup. So I'm going to have him. I'm going to die on the hill for Moharrami. For my two defensive midfielders, I would go with Qurbani and Razakinia. They have both proven that they both have qualities that I really, really like in a center defensive mid, and I think they both would complement each other really well. Add that youthfulness, that's going to be the word of the day in this video, to our midfield that we very much need because Ezatolahi, Qudus, the knees are pretty much gone with them. In the attacking mid spot, Hossein, our Lord and Savior, one of the most creative and probably the most talented Iranian footballer right now. He has to start games. He won't start games under Qalinui. He would be getting like 2-minute cameos if we're lucky. But in my video, I will definitely and almost certainly put him at the cam spot. And then for my left mid, I'd go with Khalizadeh. My right mid, I'd go with Saeid. These two guys are probably our most informed players going into this World Cup. They're both playing in Europe, both playing really well in Europe, and they have to be starting for us. And then for the striker position, for me personally, I think we actually play better with one striker up top. When you think about some of the recent friendlies, when we played one striker, I think we played a little bit more like a cohesive unit. And then to go back even a little bit farther, the Asian Cup match against Japan, that was by far the best performance we had in a competitive match under Amir Khalanoui. And we were only playing with one striker. And in that match, it was Azmoun. So I don't really care if it's Taremi or Azmoun. Thus, that's what I'm going to go with. Either or of one of them two. I don't really care. I think both of them complement the team in different ways. Depending on the opponent, go with one of the two. You have Eckert as a perfect super sub. If you need to go with two strikers, you need to change things up. But to maybe start the game to keep the team a little bit more balanced, to help our deficiencies as a team defensively, maybe going with the two DMs to cover that back line might not be a bad idea. And then going with that one striker to maybe connect the guys like Saeid Manesh, Khalizadeh, who have shown they are absolute lethal monsters right now with the form they are in Europe for their respective clubs. I don't think this is a bad idea. So yeah, that's who I think the Iranian national team should call up for this World Cup, how they should line up for this World Cup. But as I always say at the end of every single video, boys and girls, my opinion only matters so much. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys agree with, disagree with? Everything I talked about in this video, let me know your thoughts. As I said, we are on the road to 6,000 subscribers before the World Cup. So if you're a big fan of the Iranian national team, Asian football, and love that type of content, make sure to subscribe. Smash the like button on this video because it helps out the video so much. And if you guys enjoyed this video, don't stop watching now. The YouTube algorithm specifically recommended this video for you all to watch, so click here next. And click over here as I post content weekly on the channel and you don't want to miss it. But boys and girls, I hope you'll have a lovely day.